All right. Perfect. All right. Welcome to our Bet on Black workshop, everyone. I'm excited to have Mr. Dan Ward from Detroit Labs here. He's going to talk a little bit about your pitch presentation and what it means to put it all together and make it look good for your investors. So I will go ahead and turn this over to Dan. We are recording. If you have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A box as always, and or wait till we're kind of done with the presentation. But please, if you have questions, ask those questions. You have an expert here. Take this time to really get the answers to any questions that you have regarding your pitch presentation. And I'll turn it over to Dan.
All right, thank you. I'm going to pull up a presentation here in a minute, but I should say I'm at home right now. So if there are distractions knocking on my door, I've been very clear not to, but I'm at home and I should at least mention that. And specifically, what I'm going to talk through today is more of the actual presenting aspects of this. And so, or presenting aspects of your pitch. So if you give me a moment, I'm going to bring that up. And just want to make sure if I can get a thumbs up that everyone can see that. I'm gonna pull the chat up too.
Yep, looks like they can see it.
Cool. All right, let's get rolling. So I am Dan. Yep, I'm a co-founder and president of a company called Detroit Labs. We are a software design, development, innovation studio in downtown Detroit. I'm an alum of Central Michigan University, and through my relationships with Central Michigan University, I made it to CMURC. I'm fortunate enough to sit on the board for CMURC and get to work with a lot of great people over there whenever they actually want my opinion, which isn't always the greatest. Let's jump in here. So, as I mentioned in 2011, I started Detroit Labs with a couple other co-founders, uh, three of which are still there. We still very much run the business together. And over the years, we've been able to partner with some amazing brands. This list keeps growing, and we're very, very fortunate to continue to grow that business. And if you've ever ordered a sandwich with the Jimmy John's mobile app or Jimmy John's website, that's our design, that's our development. That's probably the easiest one to point to when it comes to these logo slides. So when we started the business, I was supposed to be the person that did the selling, right? I had one co-founder that was previously a VP of technology. He was going to be the culture person, the person to bring on the talent. Had another co-founder that was very much more dollars focused, kind of like a CFO, and he understood all of the different like governances related to actually having a business, and so that was going to be his focus. And so I took on sales and marketing. And I have to say, when I did that, I was incredibly scared to do that. I was very fearful. I didn't want to get up in front of people and have to sell. And then I had a mentor that told me, "Hey, listen, if you can't get up and try to sell what it is you offer, you have no business. Like literally, that is business. You have to sell what it is that you're making or service that you have to offer. Otherwise, you're done." So you're going to have to get past that fear, and you're going to have to work on it. And that kind of resonated. I grew up playing sports, and in sports, it's practice, practice, practice. And so I really had to kind of get over that fear, and the way I did it was through a ton of practice. And over time, I started to kind of jot a few things down. What was working, what wasn't working, what resonated with clients, what they didn't like, and I spent some time and I kind of narrowed it down to 10 tips. I mean, 10's nice and round, easy number to communicate, but these were actually things that I found myself doing every single time I was in the room with a client, every time I was on the phone with a client. This could be pitching an idea. This could be just getting up in front of them and speaking. My 10 tips very much apply to all of those different things. So as I go through these, think about them as helping you the minute you're in front of an investor. Think of them as helping you when you're on the phone with a potential client. Think of them just if you're fortunate enough to have a public speaking engagement or presenting in front of anybody, these can really, really be helpful. And as I go through these, you'll probably notice there are things that I'm even still working on, right? I still every time I do this presentation, it's I've done it I don't know how many times, dozens of times now. I still see those tips and go, yep, okay, I'm still working on that one. Yep, okay, I'm still practicing that. And so you're never fully complete. You're always a work in progress, and therefore these tips should be able to help. I will say, normally I've got tons of stories related to all these tips. I will maybe hit on a few here and there, but whenever you're presenting virtually, it's kind of hard to go in depth on stories because I can't always quite tell what's working and what's resonating. So I am watching the chat. I have it pulled up here. By all means, even if I'm presenting and you want to ask something related to that specific tip, I am cool taking a break, getting interrupted, doing it. Like I love that. That's fantastic. So let's dive in. Yes, thank you. So the first one is prep. Um, and not just run through it in your head. I think oftentimes folks spend a lot of time prepping for a presentation and they do two things. One, they like write every word out as if they're going to follow a script. Don't do that because when you mess up and you get off the script, it's very difficult to get back to it. So that's number one. The other piece of thing I see is a lot of folks will build a presentation and they will run through it just in their head. And that's fine to a point, but you really, really need to kind of speak it out loud. You're going to find the spots that transition well. You're going to find the spots where you need some real work on transitioning. You're going to figure out your timing at that point, how you're going to actually deliver it. You're going to get an opportunity to figure out, do you have points of emphasis where you can bring your voice up, bring your voice down? There's a lot of different things that you're going to uncover in prep. So I encourage, once you get your presentation together, make sure you speak it out loud. Like it doesn't have to be in front of people. You can I do it in my office all the time. I do it when I'm driving if I have to do a presentation. I actually talk through every single slide while I'm driving out loud to make sure that there's no like hangups or weird transitions. So that's the first one, prep. Don't think you can just go and wing these things. Second one is persona. Um, this one I think is really helpful for a lot of folks. And this kind of draws back to that fear I had. I had this fear of getting up in front of people and presenting. And I think a lot of times that fear kind of uh, it comes from this notion that you're going to be judged. And not just you're going to be judged for your idea, for your product, for your business, and not just judged for your ability to get up in front of somebody. I think a lot of times you feel like you're going to be judged as a human. Like I'm going to be judged as Dan, and no one's going to like Dan, and everyone's going to see right through me, and it's going to be awful. And so what I started to do was kind of create a persona, and I started to kind of watch people who were presenting that I thought did a really good job. And it sounds cliche, but I still think one of the best presenters ever is Steve Jobs. He was masterful on stage, the way he used pauses, emphasize. I mean, just really, really great. And he at least appeared to me to be fearless on stage. And I wanted to have that level of fearlessness that he had. And so I adopted what I would call my Dan Steve Jobs. So it's almost like I'm putting a mask on. I'm presenting to be, or I'm pretending to be that version of me up on stage that's fearless. And what it does, it gives me a little bit of motivation. It gives me a little bit of a style when I'm presenting, but it also protects me. So, like, if you don't like me, you don't like the Steve Jobs persona version of me. And I protect myself a little bit. This has been very, very helpful. Number three is take the plunge. So I'm just going to assume for a moment that you have any of you, spoken in front of people, whether that be at your day job, whether that be in a class, whether that be whatever. Like I am assuming everybody has done that before. And you've probably seen others do it, and then you've probably seen it go well and seen it go terrible. One of the best ways to force yourself to succeed is by taking the plunge and just going. So bear with me here. We've all been to a pool that's freezing cold, and you've got two options. One, you can dip your toes in, then to your ankle, then to your shin, then to your knee, and just go extremely slow getting into that pool. And it's agonizing. Colder, colder, colder. You're not making it easier, right? Your other option is just jump in. It's painful for, a few seconds, but then eventually it starts to warm up. And when you're presenting, it's the same thing. Just jump in. Don't delay the start. Just go after it. For me, I chose a word. It was just the word was okay. So whenever I'm in a room with a client, whenever I'm presenting online, whatever it might be, I say, okay, and then I start. That is my like, hey, there is no going back. We are doing this. Now the adrenaline starts to flow a little bit, and that can be a little tough. But once you get in there, once you get past that cold and the water starts to get warm and you start to feel comfortable on stage or on the phone or in front of somebody, everything starts to flow. But if you're really, really, really delayed and timid, your audience is going to see and feel that as well. No one has fun when that happens. Your number one job when you are in front of somebody is to tell a story. You're not just talking about the product. You need to tell them why they need the product. You need to tell them why they need the service, while their life is missing something without whatever it is that you are selling. It is important to tell that story. Um, I'm going to assume that everyone here has seen an infomercial before. I don't know how long until I can't use this reference, but infomercials are cheesy and genius all at the same time. They tell masterful stories when it comes to attempting to sell something. So you watch these infomercials, and it's individual really struggling to do a task. Oftentimes it's black and white, feels like a old dreary type video, right? And okay, I'm cutting up onions and my tears are coming down, and this is agonizing and terrible. And then, hey, there's this amazing product that you throw the onion in, tap, 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 slap chop, if anybody remembers that. But anyways, you do that. But when they show that product, it's in beautiful, full color. The person is smiling, enjoying it, no tears whatsoever. So they really kind of grabbed a hold of you and said, this is a very painful way of cutting onions. And here, my product gives you a beautiful, amazing way to cut onions. And look how happy you are. It is really, really, really important to tell a story when you're selling. Human beings buy on pain. Now, that sounds morbid, but that's what it is. Pain could come in many different, it could be frustration, right? And the pain in that situation is that cutting onions are annoying and they cause you to cry. So we have a brand new product for you that fixes all of that, takes your pain away. Tell a story when you're presenting. This one's always tough to talk about when we're remote, but you can already see I'm doing a lot with my hands anyways. It's important when you are presenting, especially in person. Remote's a little tougher, but like I'm standing right now. Even though we're remote, I'm standing, and I do that on purpose so I can get a little bit of movement at least. I can use my hands a little bit. When you are in front of a room and you are standing there like a robot, it is very uncomfortable for your audience. You want to use body language to kind of put everyone at ease. And you want to make sure that when you are using that body language, you're doing it like you're kind of conducting an orchestra, a symphony, whatever. It's smooth, right? It's using your hands to emphasize a point. It's making sure that you're not playing the drums when you're talking. Smooth, no drums. Drums very much put people in a defensive posture. They get nervous. All they're doing is thinking about how aggressive your presentation is. Smooth puts them in a very accepting, open feeling, and they're really going to take in what you're saying. And if you're in a room and you can do it, stand up. Don't just sit at a table and move around if you can. I will in a room of 5 or 6 people, small room, I will still stand up if I am presenting something. And I'll even acknowledge, like if it feels weird to stand, I'll be like, I'm sorry, I just need to stand. So it engages people a little bit better. Speaking of, make sure you're reading the room. And this is the worst thing to probably talk about in a webinar format where I don't see any of y'all's faces. But it is a very important thing when you're in person. If you're virtual and you can see faces, grab at least 1 or 2 folks that you can see on camera and try to figure out if what you're saying is resonating. But you want to look around and make eye contact with somebody. Figure out, are they picking up what you're putting down? Do they really understand what it is that you are saying? Are they interested? Are they nodding at the points where you want them to nod? Are they acknowledging some level of pain that you're trying to tell them about? And then the other pieces are, if they are paying attention to their phone, maybe you bring your voice up a little bit, right? If you notice that they're kind of set back like that, maybe you calm down a little bit. It's really important to try to figure out what every person is doing in the actual room. If what you're saying is resonating, if your tone's working, if your body language is working, all of the things I just talked about before this, you have to really kind of determine what is and is not working when it comes to reading the room. Actually, I'll give you I'll give one example. I was pitching to a client and was really excited about this pitch. My creative director and I spent a fair amount of time coming up with this pitch. Super, super excited. We get into the room. It's a mobile app. And I think we put together 6 different screens with a big concept in there. And so we go through this thing. I'm up on, I've got it up on the screen. I'm walking through all these different features. I revealed the big concept that I'm really excited about. And I've got 5 folks in there from the client. And they're just looking at me with absolutely no emotion. Now, I think I'm doing terrible because I'm attempting to read the room. So I'm just trying to grab on to just one nugget of expression from one of them. I find one and I'm getting a little bit of nod from them. So I said, okay, well, I got to just keep pushing through. At the end of it, I sat down and said, well, that was terrible. That went awful. Let's go home. We didn't sell anything. And then they all looked up and they said, we love it. So you never quite know if you are getting an absolute no reaction, they could still be loving it. So you have to do your very best to be in that uncomfortable space and try to find that 1 or 2 people that are at least like engaged, nodding along. This is well, okay. So I always say there's 2 hard ones. I don't put them in specifically in order. I think I think 7 and 9 maybe are the hard ones. Is a very challenging thing to get rid of. It happens when our voice, so if your voice, your mouth, whatever your voice moves faster than your brain. That's when ums happen. So if you think about that for a minute, you're talking to somebody, you're forming what you're going to talk about, usually form a complete idea. You get to a point where you've ended that idea while you're talking, but you still desire to talk or still need to talk. Your brain hasn't quite fully caught up to what it is that you're saying. When that happens, ums happen. And a lot of times you just do it subconsciously, you don't realize it. A few here and there, no big deal. And I'll admit, I've had plenty just today. I've caught myself multiple times doing it. So again, work in progress. These are things that you work on. But this happens because you're trying to have a thoughtful next point that you're trying to make. And there's a way to get rid of this. So yes, practice as much as you can of speaking and having your brain go at the same time. But I think it is natural for the words to get faster than the brain. And the way you solve that, especially when you're present or you're presenting in front of anybody, is introduce a pause. So as you're talking and you're trying to kind of formulate the next thing that you're going to say, instead of going and then just stop talking. Just take a pause for a moment, collect your thoughts. No one views that as messing up. No one has any idea that you're taking a moment to collect your thoughts. Honestly, it makes the conversation a bit more natural. If you do, say I just did if you do take the persona tip 2 that I was talking about, and you start to really watch some of the great stage presence speakers, you'll notice they use pauses just like a tool in their toolbox. They'll use it before a big point that they're going to emphasize. They'll use it maybe to slow down their presentation a little bit. They'll use it to help relax the audience. Ultimately, though, they're going to create a better flow by introducing those pauses. It's kind of uncomfortable when you hear somebody say every 2, 3, 4 words. It's tough, right? It's tough to follow along. But introducing those pauses, it's a tremendous help. The audience doesn't know you're trying to collect your thoughts. They'll just think it's actually part of the presentation, but it can be a little uncomfortable because now you're standing up in front of everybody, not saying a word. That's uncomfortable. So you're going to have to practice both of those things, getting rid of the ums and being comfortable with the pauses. But I will tell you this: if you take not if you ignore all the tips today, that's fine if you do, but take this one with you. Remember to introduce pauses. It's a tool, like it's a very, very powerful tool. Number 8, less is more. If you noticed, I have a number and like 2, 3 words on every slide. My goal with a presentation is to have the presentation, the visuals, just be supporting material. I want you to listen to me. And I want the slides to just be there to emphasize my point. It may allow you to take a note, or, I'm going to give an entire example of number 8, but all you need to remember is less is more. While I'm talking, I want you paying attention to me. When I'm selling, I want the client to pay attention to me, what I'm trying to say. Try to keep your slides as minimal as possible while still getting your point across. When you have too much on a slide, your audience stops listening to you and they start reading ahead on your slides. Same thing happens if you pass out a big presentation book as you get ready to go up and present. Everyone will just flip through that deck that you just gave them, or that booklet, or whatever it is that you just gave them. You really want to connect with somebody when you're presenting. Most of the time, people buy from people, and which I'm going to hit on here in a second, but people just buy from people. Yeah, they want to buy a really great product, really great service, but they want to feel really comfortable and good with the person that's selling it. And so if you have a bunch of words up on a slide, or you handed out a big booklet or packet ahead of time, they're just reading all of that, and they're not going to pick up, and make a connection with you. So do your best to get just the bare minimum of information on the slides to get your point across. Make sure they don't read ahead, and make sure they're actually connecting with you as the presenter. Now, I always debated on whether this one should be 10 or 9. This is clearly I ended up making it 9. This is the other second hard one. So the no ums is probably the hardest. The finish and stop is incredibly difficult as well. When you are presenting, when you're selling, you need to get your point across, wrap it up, and stop talking. You need to create dead space, silence, because you want to get your audience to respond back to you. When I'm in front of a client, I'm going to say, this is what we can do for you. This is how long it would take. This is our vision of it. Here's what the price would be. And then I need to stop, because I need to hear from the client whether they liked my idea, whether that timing worked for them, whether they were okay with the price, or they had a conversation about it, or they wanted to have a conversation about price. If I spent the entire time talking and then at the end said, okay, thanks for your time, I got absolutely nothing in return from that client. I don't know how I did. I don't know if what I'm trying to sell resonated with them. I don't know if I even have a chance to make that sale. All because I never finished, and then I never stopped. Sometimes I call it finish and shut up, which I actually believe is probably more applicable. But I think it's natural for human beings to want to fill blank space with conversation. I mean, even just think about with your friends. If you're sitting there with your friends and conversation runs a little dry, there's some silence, someone will almost always try to fill that silence with conversation, even if it's meaningless conversation. So the pauses and embracing silence, that's really the underlying pieces of 7 and 9, the no ums, finish and stop. So I encourage you to really, really practice that. Get your pitch across, and you have to stop to get feedback from your client, from your investor, whoever the audience might be. Otherwise, you have no clue how you did. You're just going to leave that meeting wondering if it went well, and you won't know. My last tip. This is kind of why my last tip is make an impression. I talked about a couple of different things through here. Talked about reading the room, trying to less is more, telling a story. Everything is about trying to create a connection between you and your audience. Most good investors, they invest in people first. The idea is great. They're gonna, you want the idea to hook them. Like, you need them to pay attention to your idea, and that's great. But at the end of the day, most good investors know that ideas today, they change. They call it the pivot and whatever other term that is used, but they change, right? You're going to learn new information. The market's going to adapt. Something new is going to come out, and your idea is going to have to change a little bit along the way. That always happens. So an investor is looking for the right person, the right team. Can I invest in this team? Will they make it through that pivot? Will they make it through, market challenges? Right? They're going to want to make sure that they're investing in the right person. So you have to use all of those tips to build a relationship with your audience. You're connecting with them. You're trying to leave a lasting impression on them. That way, when they go back and they look at your finances, they talk to their other partners and they try to look at the idea and say, hey, is this something we should invest in? Like that is tactical work they're going to do. But you want them always to be like, "Hey, I really though, I kind of like this person and I kind of want to invest in them. And at the very least, maybe it leads to another conversation. But it if you make an impression on somebody, they're more likely to do business with you. And if anybody has ever done work on their house or anything like that, you typically, you get a couple people that come out and they have various proposals, pricing, all that stuff. And obviously pricing is going to come into play when you're doing work on your house, but I would say most of the time, speaking with, from my own experience, I go with the person I trust. So did they show up on time? Did they give me meaningful conversation? Did they help me with, answering my questions? When they left, did I remember their name? And then, that price comes in. Sure, I'm hoping their price is lower than the other one, but honestly, usually the good ones, they're not. The ones that leave the best impression, they're not the cheapest price. And so they still get the work though, because I feel like if I'm going to hire them, if I'm going to pay the money, they're going to show up on time. They're going to get the job done right. I won't have to bring them back 14 times over. And all because at the end of the day, they made me feel really, really comfortable and trusting when they came out. So your job when you're presenting to somebody, when you're pitching to somebody, when you're selling to somebody is leave a lasting impression. You're going to want them to trust you. Your price may not be the lowest, and I encourage you to not have the lowest price. I think you want to make sure that you're selling on proper value, not just lower price. And by making a strong, strong impression, they're going to buy from you because of that. Now, I'm going to use my number 9 tip. This is why I debated, like, should it be 9? Should it be 10? I think it works as 10, but also make an impression works as 10. So I'm going to use my number 9 and I'm going to finish and I'm going to stop. Thank you. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer. I'm kind of an open book when it comes to this stuff. So anything you have, happy to answer them.
All right, we've got a few in the question and answer box. Sophia said, would you recommend flashcards?
Good question. personally, I don't like them. That is not to say that they're not. I'm gonna stop sharing so this moves up. I had two screens. It drives me nuts. It moves over here when I hit play. All right. Um, I don't like them, but that's not to say they can't be helpful. Just make sure if you do have them on there, they're really mainly just hitting the point that you're trying to make. Do not have paragraphs on there. Do not try to follow them word for word, right? Because I mean, if you think about it, I'll use my phone. But if you think about it, if I was talking to you today and I was doing this the whole time, it's far less engaging. So you just kind of think about that. If you are going to do them, that's okay. I gave a commencement speech to my high school 3 years ago. I don't know what it was. And I used no flashcards there. So I had to do it 3 different times. I had to do it in front of a huge audience on a stage, and it was a topic I didn't know anything. Like I just wrote the presentation, so I hadn't given the presentation before. But if you're getting in front of a potential investor, you should know your presentation already. So, but take it or leave it. Just if you're going to do it, less is more. Like number 8.
Good one. Angela, for tip number 1, how long should someone spend when prepping for a pitch?
Great question. There is a thing in sports. It's a concept. You can psych yourself up or you can psych yourself out. So there is a point of it's another thing too is like law of diminishing returns, right? There is a point where you're as prepared as you're going to be. Think of a test too, right? Like if you don't know the information by the time it's ready to roll, like you're not going to get any more information in as you lead up to that test. And same things with the pitch. You want to make sure you know it. You want to make sure it doesn't become robotic. Messing
Mhm.
up is okay. And honestly, most investors, they're looking for a more natural conversation anyways. And so they expect a little bit of mess up. It's more about equipping yourself with the tools to handle that. So I would say if you can get through your presentation confidently out loud, then end your prep at that point. Don't just keep doing it. Don't just keep drilling it in. Get your timing right, be able to say it out loud, and then you can wrap it up.
Awesome. Any other questions? Go ahead and raise your hands. She
By
said,
the
thank
way,
you
it's
for
very easy to overthink it. I have a 10-year-old that is plays baseball and really smart kid. He's a pitcher, and so like he really has to know the game. And but he was struggling for probably about 6 games while hitting. Great pitcher, pitching great. 6 games or so he was struggling at the plate. And I finally had to just tell him, like, dude, you are overthinking this thing. Like, you know how to hit. At some point, you got to just kind of be a little bit of dumb and get up there. We have a black lab, 1-year-old black lab, and he's a black lab puppy, right? He's kind of dumb, and he's dopey, I should say. I'm like, you got to be Pete. Pete's his name. Get up there and just swing. So at some point, you end up overthinking it, and you have to just go for it.
how do you know if your prices are suitable for the product?
No, you have to do some research. I mean, I think we have tools available that we didn't have when I started my business. AI. Use ChatGPT, use Gemini to help you do some market research. I think you have to try to figure out, okay, how do you define yourself? And then who are your competitors? And you can even ask ChatGPT or Gemini for that and start doing research using AI. It's a huge help. Sometimes I like AI, sometimes I don't, but this is definitely one where I like it. You also can use it to help figure out what your value prop is. So I'm not a big fan of being the lowest price. I think if you're the lowest price, you don't have a lot of room for wiggle on a negotiation. Don't be astronomically more expensive, but like we tend to be more on the expensive side. Sometimes that doesn't help us, but I like it because when I get in there, I've got margin to play on a negotiation, which is super, super helpful. And so, but know that you're coming in with like, oh, we're X amount more than the competitor. Don't come in to way, way, way higher because you didn't do your research. So use ChatGPT, use Gemini. It's a huge help. I use it all the time too for like market research. So if I'm looking at, so if a client, if we're doing outreach with a client, usually in order for us to do business with a client, they've got to be between 300, 400 million in annual revenue. And so I want to make sure I'll look that client up. Okay, what were their earnings reports? AI can help me figure all that out. I usually try to figure out, okay, during their earnings calls, did they talk about a big priority they might have? It's amazing how much information that you can get just by asking ChatGPT and Gemini, because a lot of it's publicly available information.
Yeah, that's good feedback. Any other questions out there? Raise your hand if you want to talk. I can unmute you and you can chat with Dan about specific questions. Do not let Dan walk away without you asking
Hey, you're
questions.
walking away easy here. Drink some coffee.
Anybody got anything? Yvette says great information.
I had to announce that that was coffee, by the way, because I did this one time and that very much looks like scotch and it's not. And so I had asked a couple times. So I like to announce that, hey, I'm about to drink coffee because it's got ice in it and everything. But anyways, so that's why I announced it.
Looks like everyone's excited about all the insight and advice you provided. So that's good stuff.
Right on. I hope it helps.
All right. Going once. Headed out twice. All right, guys, this is being recorded. We'll make sure that this is in the course. Thank you, Dan, so much for all that information. It definitely was very invaluable. Oh, one more question here. Market.
Uh, oh, that's a good one. Marketing is very challenging. And I'm going to speak from experience of attempting to market Detroit Labs. You don't always know until you know, and it needs time. So that that is a challenge because you want to be able to say, okay, here's my marketing approach. I'm going to post on whatever social media you want. Listen, I'm going to post on LinkedIn, and I'm going to post on LinkedIn 3 times a week, and that's going to be my marketing approach. And then maybe I'm going to do some paid ads on LinkedIn as well. You have to do that for months before you know if it's working or not. Right. I think a lot of times people will just do one post, be like, well, I didn't get anything back. So I guess I got to go try a different thing. No, you need repetition, you need volume, and you need time to judge and assess whether it was good. We've gone through a lot of different ways to do marketing at Detroit Labs. I don't know if we found the right way yet. So let's see, we're in business 14 years, and I'm not confident that we found the full right way. We're a services company, so it's a little different than product, but um, we've done paid media, we've done LinkedIn ads, we've done organic. Our best stuff has been referrals and word of mouth. That you always have that. That's always the best. And I think maybe even building on that alone, we have kind of transitioned to going and doing events. So, trying to get spots on panels, just going to big conferences, trying to get clients to dinner, things like that. We've transitioned over to in the last little bit. I don't know if it's going to work better or not. That's just the problem with marketing. You normally need to come up with an approach, and it takes 6 months to figure out if it worked.
Yeah,
So it's not a Super Bowl commercial where you throw it out there and then within the next day or two you get a response back. Big dollars can get faster responses. Smaller dollars normally means it's a long game. So
slow down.
marketing is a long game.
Makes sense. We have a lot of retail businesses, a few retail businesses, a modeling agency, trash recycle bin cleaning service, catering, and an academy. So
Okay.
there's a couple of different business models here, but mostly retail, a lot of, product based, a few service based businesses. So
Honestly, I don't like Meta, but IG ads are good. They work really well. I, I can't tell you how many times I'll scroll through Instagram and I'll see some shirt or something and I'll be like, "Mm, you got me today." Right? Like there's Instagram ads are really good. And I'm sure I don't have Facebook, but I'm sure Facebook, I mean, it's the same company, right? Similar. So, but Instagram ads are pretty good, especially if you've got something visual, or you can do something with video. So I think those are good. LinkedIn ads are good too. It just depends. Like normally services companies, like if you're trying to sell to like an office manager or something like that, it's part of a corporate, LinkedIn's pretty good for that. But if you're trying to sell to a general consumer, go where they are, and it's Instagram and probably Facebook.
Okay, that's good information. All right, I didn't see any other questions come through, so you got that one in real quick. There's anything else, feel free to add it in chat real quick. If not, again, this is recorded, so we'll add it to the chat. Thank you so much, Dan. Your presentation is always such valuable information, great insight and advice from you.
My pleasure. It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Thank you again. Rest of the team, I'll add this to the course here. It'll be in there. You should be able to check that out in your like third or fourth module, I believe. But don't forget your pitches are due next week, June 4th. So you have exactly, I would say 7 days to get that handled and get that submitted. So thank you guys again. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, this presentation will be in the course and we'll move on from there. Thank you so much, Dan.
Take care, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you. Awesome. Have a great day, everyone.